Hey everybody, this is Jody Franklin, and I am so delighted to have my teacher here today. Her name is Tracy Harrison. She's the founder and lead educator for the School of Applied Functional Medicine, and I really owe all the success of my practice to her. She has just been so amazing. She's so brilliant. She has lots of credentials and gives us all the science behind what she teaches. So everything's very, very evidence-based. And I wanted to bring her on today to answer questions that you guys might have, but just to interview her and give you an idea about the school, because the registration for the school is actually opening tomorrow, February 15th, for the April semester. That begins April 15th, tax day. So there'll be a kickoff meeting that night, and you can start learning. The school is 100% online. You can get your education in about 8 to 10 hours a week, and if you don't have that much time, you can stretch the semester out over 12 months instead of 7. It's usually a 7-month semester, but you have the option to do that and just learn in 4 or 5 hours a week. So you guys are going to have the opportunity to learn this in just a few hours a week and really start implementing functional medicine into your practice right away. And there is such a huge demand for functional medicine now. I actually have a full practice with a wait list within just a couple years, or even just by the time I finished graduating SAFM, I already had a full practice. I've been able to actually raise my rates 600% since I started as well. And I'm just waiting for Tracy to come on now and, tell us, answer the questions. But if you guys have any questions while you're watching this video, just type them below. Even if you're watching the repeat, that's okay. We can still get your questions answered. We'll type them in underneath. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the semester while we're waiting. But you basically get to really customize your semester. So you're going to get 5 foundational courses, including things like Lab Work 101, where you get to learn lab work from a functional lens, and you get to learn functional lab work as well. You're going to get Disease 101, which is an overview of all diseases and basically how to break them down and figure them out. And you also get Supplements and Nutrients 101, which really teaches you the ins and outs of supplements. She names brand names, dosages, everything you need to know about supplements. And then it goes on and she teaches you all about all the other things you need to know, like there's a course on, I'm trying to think of all the different ones, even placebo effect and things like that. But then you get to choose 3 courses that you want to take, that you want to specialize in. So if you're in endocrinology, you would take the different hormones classes. There's hormones demystified, there's thyroid and adrenal courses, there's you can take the pregnancy and fertility course, which is just amazing. They're all really great. And even the reversing diabetes course, because insulin, as you all know, is a hormone as well. And diabetes affects so many people out there. About 1 in 4 people I know are either pre-diabetic, diabetic, or very insulin resistant. So Tracy, if you're there, we'd love to have you come on. And I'd love to have you join in. So say hello. I'm going to try to add you right now. But I also wanted to add that the school also has practical application classes, and I'm going to let Tracy explain that to you now. Hello there.
Hi there.
So great to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Glad to see Facebook is cooperating today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you're here because this group is specifically medical professionals. A lot of nurse practitioners in this group, some PAs, some MDs, and some nurses. And I know SAFM started out initially more for nutrition professionals, and now it seems like about 50 or 60% or a big percentage of the students are medical professionals, and we have a lot of different modalities. I know you're going to talk about that. But maybe you can tell us, what do you think, or why, or how do you think medical professionals can benefit from learning functional medicine?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that increasingly medical professionals who've been trained in a conventional light are being attracted to functional medicine because honestly, it gives them a pathway for actually fulfilling the calling with which they originally entered a medical field. We have, I mean, I know you've spoken to a number of them too. We've had so many students just get back a sense of the enthusiasm and passion for the practice of medicine that they had when they initially went to medical school, when they really conceived of themselves as having not just an interest or a passion, but let's call it what it is. It's a calling to really help people, to be a healer, to be that guidance, that expert, that healer, that nurturing source, for people to find their greatest wellness. And unfortunately, in today's practice of conventional medicine, which can be so important and life-saving in terms of triage and stabilization for acute issues, increasingly we're seeing that conventional medical protocols and standard of care for chronic debilitating or chronic inflammatory dynamics, it just doesn't work. I don't think most nurse practitioners or physicians went into medicine with the view that the best they were going to be able to do for someone is to recommend lifelong intake of a drug,
Right.
or wait for a disease process to get so severe that it requires a surgery or a secondary drug. And my heart goes out to medical practitioners who are becoming disillusioned or burned out. We have an alarming level of reduction in people entering the medical fields. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think there's burnout, right? We want to be able to actually help people to not just manage a disease process with medication. I think people want to help them to be able to get well and sustain that wellness, right? And refine their true vitality, not kind of limp along or get by or band-aid symptoms or kind of temporarily arrest biochemical dynamics with a drug. So I think it helps people to really find the calling that maybe they entered medicine for in the very first place. And education gives people the clinical skills and also the confidence to be able to expand the scope and the approach of their work, or maybe to break out of conventional practice and go into maybe more of a pure functional practice, functional medicine type of practice. There are lots of different options. But yes, it's something that my heart really goes out to people who may have entered the medical field years ago with a particular goal and a particular focus in mind who are struggling now. So yeah, and to your earlier question, what's one of my favorite things at the School of Applied Functional Medicine is so many different modalities receiving their education together. I think increasingly we're all realizing that the medical practice of the future is a multimodality practice where a variety of committed, synergistic individuals can come together with different types of training, different expertise levels, to give a given patient what they most need at this given point in time. And so at SAFM, we have at any given time, usually about 24 different modalities. We have physicians and nurse practitioners and nurses and PAs and physical therapists and psychologists and nutritionists and health coach and health educator and psychologist and pharmacist and midwife, and there's so many different ones. Everyone already has the appropriate license or certification. So we are advanced training, right? We do not convey a modality license or certification. But we have many years of experience giving practical advanced clinical knowledge through the functional medicine lens that helps people to take their practice to a completely different level in terms of patient outcomes.
Definitely. And that's a good segue to my patient outcome question. But before I ask that, I want to actually ask you or just mention that I know a lot of colleagues in the school that are NPs and PAs and physicians who have already gone through a functional medicine training school. I know you went through the same school to learn yourself. And what they found with the additional training at SAFM, and you don't need the previous training if you're already a physician or a NP or whatever, you can just go straight to SAFM. But they love the fact that you really teach practical application. And I think that's in the title, the School of Applied Functional Medicine, that you teach people how to use it in their practice right away. And I just love the case studies that you do, both listening to you with an actual client that you're working with, a recorded session with an intake with a client, which has been so helpful for me. And then you do a whole lecture on what you did with that person, how you got them healthier. That just like was a game changer for me, learning that. You have so many of those. And then we have several coaching calls a month where you get on the phone with a fellow student, or somebody out there might be able to present a case study, and you go through in detail. Let's look at the lab work. Okay, what does everybody see here? So it's so hands-on that you just feel so confident in when you go out with a client, because you've seen this before, you've seen this case, you put the puzzle pieces together, and they thrive. So it's so exciting. But anyway, I just wanted to ask you, so can you give examples of some patient outcomes that your students have seen? I can tell you dozens of different outcomes with me, but I just want to hear what some of the things that you that you've seen.
I actually think one of the benefits of being a student at SAFM is we have this huge interactive practitioner forum that people are on daily, but it's a place to get answers to clinical questions, whether it's reviewing an intake or lab work or a conundrum or a surprise situation. There's wonderful practitioner to practitioner support, real time. Sometimes you can get an answer in a few minutes, where people both give and take of their expertise and their experience. But um, their wins, their achievements, and it always makes my day when someone who maybe has been practicing in the conventional medical world for a long time is celebrating, not just helping someone to manage their type 2 diabetes, but to reverse it. That's not even a rare dynamic anymore. Practitioners are posting about that almost every day. It's actually fairly straightforward to do when you use the knowledge of functional medicine in terms of not just how to arrest or provide triage or stabilization for a dynamic, but how do you address the true root causes of the insulin resistance that is at play in promoting the hyperglycemia that caused the type 2 diabetes in the first place. But I think some of the most impressive types of dynamics are where people are finding sustained remission from not just singular, but multi-autoimmune dynamics. I mean, in the conventional medical world, this is still something largely believed to be impossible. And of course, we think anything's impossible until it's actually done, right? But when we start to think about a chronic autoimmune dynamic as not being a disease of the victim body part, if you will, but understanding that from a systemic root cause perspective, lupus and multiple sclerosis and Crohn's disease and rheumatoid arthritis, right? That all of these different diseases of the immune system have different victims, if you will, right? There's a different collection of downstream symptoms that might be managed with a relatively rich diversity of medication, or various immunosuppressants or nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. But that the true etiology, the cluster of factors that actually precipitate and further sustain that disease process are unique on a person by person basis, and they can be assessed, and they can be addressed, and they can be reversed, so that people can not only find remission from the autoimmune disease diagnosis they have, but even more importantly, they can find future avoidance of the natural downstream progression of these diseases, which is to develop another one. We're seeing huge numbers of entrenched multi-autoimmune disease. And I know you're smiling. You're one of the people who's actually achieved this, right? Mm-hmm. But when, and one of your expertise is, Jody, is skin. And I know you can give great examples, right? But things like, just entrenched, intense psoriasis, and eczema and this type of thing that are debilitating for people from a quality of life perspective in a huge way. Sometimes these dynamics have been in play not just for months and months, but years and years. And a committed patient who has an astute, skilled practitioner can indeed put a number of these dynamics in remission. So that is always particularly inspiring to me, primarily because the conventional medical world, both practitioner and patient alike, largely believes this to be not possible. And therefore we end up with an unfulfilled practitioner and then a suffering, disillusioned patient as well. And it's so inspiring and uplifting to see what can be done in that arena. So I think I'd have to pick that as being the most inspiring because of that. But we see all sorts of things, whether it's chronic acid reflux or irritable bowel syndrome or arthritis. Um, depression, anxiety. I mean, there's so many different dynamics. It's just a matter of learning to look at disease processes from a point of systemic biochemical interconnectedness and what does it play for the unique individual in front of you, and then addressing that in a methodical order, step by step, to get at the roots and help them to go away. It's amazing what functional medicine practitioners are able to do. So
Well,
I'd love for you to share an example even from your own practice. I know you're one of the longtime practitioners among many in the SAFM family who share your wins for the inspiration of other practitioners.
yeah, Tracy, I don't even know where to start. I mean, there are just so many examples of what I've been able to achieve. And to your point, I wanted to start out with autoimmune skin diseases because I had one for 20 years that I suffered with. I've been in remission now for over 10 years, which has been amazing. And I will say that I've had such success. Even just if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see all these success stories of before and after pictures, psoriasis, vitiligo, that things that people will tell you are like almost impossible to reverse or put into remission. I put into remission all the time. I've done it with over 24 people now with vitiligo alone. But even like Crohn's disease and entrenched autoimmune small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, all these issues with bloating and so many gut issues, on and on and on. And then you get into the autoimmune thing. I mean, oh my gosh, I've even Crohn's disease and colitis, I've been able to put into remission time after time. And then getting into depression, anxiety, where so much of the depression is actually from what's going on in the gut, and getting to the root cause of that. Anxiety seems to be so rampant. And I would, with just the sheer amount of people that are on antidepressants out there, and I've supported so many people in getting off of antidepressants and just completely reversing panic attacks and anxiety and even bulimia after, someone's been to psychiatrists for 20 years. And here I am with no psychiatry training, being able to get to the root cause of what's driving that issue and turning it around and getting them better. So, and even things like ADHD, asthma, allergies, I mean, on and on, just the issues, hormone issues, thyroid issues, which are rampant, just being able to help people on such a huge level. It's just so exciting. And I'm just so amazed at what I'm capable of now. I mean, people come to me, and whatever they come to me with, I say to them, I am confident I can help you. And I do. And it just, time and time again. And I've been able to build a huge practice just via referrals from happy people, from people all over the world. I just got off the phone this morning with a client from Saudi Arabia who has seen a post of mine that's with them. So it's exciting, and it's so fulfilling and so gratifying, and also very lucrative as well, because there's such a demand for it. So we need more practitioners like all of you out there to help us spread this mission and this calling. Can you tell me also?
That actually, let me just interrupt you for a moment, because that's also, I think, a wonderful motivation. Another passion that I have in running the School of Applied Functional Medicine is making sure that practitioners reap a good, abundant, fulfilling, satisfying career financially. In today's managed care system, where payments are just being twisted down, 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 and I totally have empathy for the whole notion of a practice management office arm to just manage communications with insurance. And there are so many different financial models that functional practitioners are using these days, some with insurance, some without insurance, some with group models, all sorts of creative practice models, in order to have just a more appropriately lucrative and rewarding career financially. I think that's, again, it's so important to prevent burnout so that this work can be pleasurable and enjoyable, and not feeling like if I spend another 15 or 20 minutes with a given patient because it's the right thing to do, that I'm never going to get paid for that because it goes beyond the approved um, standard of care session allotment, right? Appointment allotment. Um, that it's also a very important key for me around making sure that today's medical professionals find a practice that is rewarding and as satisfying as possible so we don't leave this work, right? So that we stay with it
Right.
in helping people to get find true wellness again, true sustainable wellness. I think increasingly we're seeing that the old school approach of I'm going to fix this person, right, and kind of an authoritative or paternalistic type of model, it's not working. It absolutely works in the ER. It works in a triage situation. But in a dynamic where people's lifestyle choices are a direct component of why they have a disease process in the first place, it has to be a partnership. It has to be a patient-centric medical service model so that people get the education and the inspiration and the empowerment they need to change their life and sustain those lifestyle choices so that they don't end up reverting back and back in our practices 6 months later with the same old issue again and again and again. So I appreciate your sharing your examples. One of the things you mentioned earlier that I think is something we get feedback from a lot of medical practitioners that they particularly enjoy. To your point, there's all sorts of functional medicine training programs out there that are quite pedantic and theoretical, but we all know from having our own practices, real life clients and patients are complex. They don't just have one issue, they have 13 or 27 issues. And so being able to give our students not just one, not just a few, but dozens of case examples where you're really working through the realistic, practical, rubber hits the road knowledge that we need, not just to understand the theory, but to know what to do with Bob when he walks into your practice tomorrow at 10 a.m. We founded the School of Applied Functional Medicine because, to your point, the functional medicine education that I was finding did not have that devil in the detail that takes you from a pedantic understanding of a concept to having the confident knowledge of how to work with it on a day over day basis with the patients that you actually have in your practice. Those are two very different things. And I'm really grateful for the positive feedback we get from our student practitioners about that particular aspect on a daily basis, because it is something that sets us apart. We are in very good company on teaching high credibility functional medicine science, but combining the rigor of education along with the practical insight of how to apply it, but also lots and lots and lots of case study practice, that trio combination makes us pretty unique. It's something that I'm really proud of, and it's my pleasure to share with practitioners every day.
Definitely. And I love that you also teach the concept of rapid relief, but it's not an end all and be all just to get them rapid relief. But I love that I have a lot of people that come to me in chronic pain, and within just a couple of weeks I can get them the kind of relief they need so that they don't have to be on their Vicodin or whatever pain medication they're on, and they can get the relief from the pain while we figure out some of the root causes. And I love, migraines or whatever they come to, GERD, all these issues and then we get to root causes. So long term, they're feeling good and they're not dependent on any kind of medication or supplement or anything like that, which I think is wonderful.
And I think it's an unfortunate wake-up call for a lot of medical practitioners about how often medications that their patients have been using, either way back in the past or in the immediate term for various types of triage, can be effective, but so often these medications end up becoming part of the cluster of root causes for propagating a further disease process, right? I'm a chemist by background. I'm a scientist. There is better living through chemistry, and medications are wonderful blessings in the era that we live in. But I think we all widely understand now that they are overused and they are way too often used as first line treatment, even in the absence of an emergency or triage type of situation. and that increasingly away from an acute scenario, medications do not provide healing, right? They provide stabilization and management of a chronic dynamic. And management and healing are not the same thing, not even close. But when you can use rapid relief types of interventions that don't contribute to a disease process, then you help people to find that release, right? That sometimes not only is just the right thing to do in terms of quality of life for the people we're serving, but sometimes it helps people to really see the truth that relief is possible for them, that healing is possible for them, where maybe they've been to not just one or two, but maybe 5 or 7 different practitioners and they haven't gotten any relief. And they've been led to believe that the only possibility is this drug for the rest of your life. And of course, they're disillusioned. Of course, they're disappointed. And so helping people to get some rapid relief via a pathway other than drugs is the galvanizing they need to not only increase their belief in you as a practitioner, but increase their belief in their body's own ability to heal. I think it's an unfortunate side effect of the whole kind of conventional medical model today that we convey even indirectly that the body is somehow this weak, vulnerable organism that needs interventions all the time in order to keep it from falling apart. And nothing could be further from the truth. And in fact, that belief creates a very strong nocebo effect, which I believe does nothing towards supporting the healing process at all. But getting back to the truth that our bodies are incredibly rich and adaptive and resilient, and given the right type of support that's actually addressing the root cause of the disease, the body is astoundingly able to bounce back from disease processes and find incredible new levels of vitality. And I think we've got to get back more to that truth in our education of patients so that we can have a strong placebo effect by galvanizing their belief in the strength of their own body,
Right.
not fueling their belief that somehow they're weak and not smart enough to understand what's going on with their body, so they need to abdicate their wellness. They need to lean on someone else to fix them and then abdicate responsibility for their long-term wellness because their body's weak and they're not smart enough, and so there's no way they're going to be able to manage their own wellness. That belief is paralyzing and sets up a huge nocebo effect that I think is at play in an awful lot of the epidemics that we see in the medical world today.
That's really fascinating. And yeah, I can see the dynamic happening a lot. And when people come to me and they've just been through the conventional medical route and they've been to 6 different doctors, all of them well-intended in trying to do the right thing, but just not getting results from that. And then they come to me and I'm able to help them. It's just the most rewarding thing, and empowering them to see that their bodies can heal. And then they see it happening. They're like a different person, that they've hope again. And it's really wonderful to see. Can you tell me?
I really believe long-term. Sorry, I just want to interrupt you. I get inspired on this topic, right? But I really believe, I was discussing this with some nurse practitioners at the retreat last year. I really believe that it won't be very long, actually, before medical education has a couple of different arms, right? Where people are either going to use a certain lens of medical education in order to support emergency care and stabilization or triage medicine for acute illness, and that will be a completely separate arm of medicine, very important arm of medicine, but separate from disease prevention, which, contrary to common belief, we have a tremendous amount of science about today, and the treatment and reversal of chronic disease dynamics. Because I think our mistake has been trying to apply the same approach to intervention across all of those things, and it would never work. By definition, it would never work because these are very different dynamics, and we've got to expand our healthcare pie to include a number of different types of practice of medicine that go way beyond the the specialties that we think of today, right? The siloed system specialties, but more looking at the difference between emergency and triage medicine versus disease reversal versus prevention. I think even in a decade, 10 to 15 years, we're going to start to see multiple types of medical education that first time around, people will be able to get good, solid functional medicine training from the beginning so that they can start to get these types of wins in their medical practices right from the beginning, right from scratch. But today, unfortunately, nothing like that exists. And so we're offering this type of training as advanced follow-on clinical training for practitioners. But I am very hopeful about progressive change in the medical education world. I think we're going to see it in our lifetime, and I hope to see that in the next 10 to 20 years. But we definitely don't have it today, unfortunately. So I really appreciate. I wanted to say you're setting up this Facebook group, even this platform for practitioners to be able to share their own awareness, their education, their advanced insight in order to fuel one another and uplift each other in their pursuit to find more fulfilling ways of practicing medicine. Because I don't want people to give up. I don't want practitioners who, intelligent, committed, devoted practitioners to burn out and give up this career, because we need everyone in order to get on top of, we talk about healthcare crisis being healthcare funding. I want healthcare to be more successful, more effective, and actually reversing disease, which of course is going to make healthcare long-term more affordable. But my passion is really about galvanizing not just the patient, but the practitioner to find a more fulfilling and satisfying calling that gets better clinical outcomes. That's the type of medicine that we really need in order to keep the practice of healthcare from bankrupting us as a nation by far.
So true. And by the way, anyone listening that's wondering about the retreat, we would like to put together a retreat strictly for the medical professionals that are interested in the school or, or are in the school. And if you are interested in this kind of thing, you can go to the website and sign up for the email list, the notifications. It's School AFM, as in Applied Functional Medicine, schoolafm.com. And then just go ahead and sign up for the email list, and you'll hear more about the retreat opportunities, which are absolutely amazing. I've been on, I think, 5 or 6 of them now, and they're really fun and really educational and just amazing. Everybody loves them. But I'd like you to just kind of close and say maybe a little bit about what distinguishes. I think I kind of talked a little bit about the case studies, but what really distinguishes SAFM from its competitors, and maybe just a little bit about the curriculum. Before you came on, I started mentioning some of the things about it, but if you could just go through those 2 points and then let everybody enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, it's a good summary. I really think the combination of very rigorous education. I'm a scientist by background. It's very important to me to make sure that what we teach is really very well understood in published clinical research. After all, functional medicine is not this sort of woo-woo science over here. It's using very traditional anatomy and biochemistry and physiology, but it's using it in a different light. And a lot of medical practitioners are shocked to learn just how much published research there is about functional medicine interconnectedness in terms of etiology of disease, but also interventions. So often there's medical research that doesn't make headlines. It's published. You can find it on PubMed. It's peer reviewed, but you're not going to find it in headlines because no one stands to make $1 jillion promoting it, right? We need to remember that, as is the case in all media, that what we see is prioritized in an effort to market by those who stand to benefit from what is concluded. And so naturally, the vast majority of clinical research headlines that we see are focused on specific pharmaceutical interventions or other surgical interventions, right? Things that have strong profit drives. But there's strong rigor in what we educate. I enjoy reviewing hundreds of different clinical research resources with our team, curating, I think, the highest impact ones, and summarizing key pearls in our classes, but also making these resources available to our students so that they can follow up with their own richer clinical research based on their interest and their passion. So I think there's a lot of rigor, but there's also a lot of practical implementation pearls. And that's the piece that you're just not going to find in the vast majority of programs, especially ones that are university funded or supported. Because we teach the theory, but we've got to move from the theory into the practical application. And then the case study practice. There are many, many people there who are educated but don't have the competence or the confidence to use their knowledge because they haven't practiced it in 35 or 50 different case studies, right? In order to experience where the rubber hits the road. I also love that our student body is multimodality, it's global. We have students from several dozen foreign countries, all 50 states in the US. As I mentioned before, a couple of dozen different modalities. That diversity creates a really rich, warm family of practitioners. And I think that warmth and interaction is also something that sets us apart. Because if you're a progressive practitioner doing this work, let's face it, it can be lonely. It can be isolating. A lot of medical practitioners who have the courage and the drive to pursue this work are ostracized by their peers because they're branching out. And it can be lonely. And so I think it's important to cultivate real, true community and camaraderie and support in this movement for better, more progressive and more effective medicine, because it can be isolating for sure. The semester program is our signature program, as you well know. This is completely online. It's self-paced. It's designed for active practitioners who are busy in their practices, looking to build a greater clinical expertise and effectiveness. And the semester program includes, let's see, 8 different courses, including the opportunity to pick some deep dive clinical courses and disease processes that are particularly appropriate for their practice. So there's an opportunity to customize the curriculum. A typical student is going to experience 25 to 30 different case reviews, both some standardized ones that are self-paced as well as live peer open coaching calls where we go through a live patient example from one of the students real time, looking at lab work, looking at intakes, looking at symptoms and etiology, and doing some live coaching. There's the practitioner forum I mentioned earlier where there's tremendous interaction. There's databases of case examples. There's over 1,000 of them now, actually, that practitioners can search for understanding different supplements and nutrients and dietary choices, lab work considerations, pharmaceuticals, all sorts of different dynamics. Let's see, what haven't I covered? We also give all student practitioners an opportunity to gather together in what we call peer group huddles, which is a smaller subset of a given semester student body where you have an opportunity to interact and review case examples and get support from other practitioners on a regular basis in order to help you to implement what you learn.
And I love, by the way, you can pick a peer group huddle in your modality. So if you're a nurse practitioner, you can pick a nurse practitioner group.
Yes.
And we also talk
Yes.
about implementing it into your practice. Like for those of you who are new to functional medicine, how do you move this and turn it into using it in your practice? And you can talk to the other practitioners in the group. So that's great too. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's I think this is a really important part for sure. And so the intention is to give a rich diversity of educational resources, right? Everything is recorded, everything is downloadable, and can be experienced on a schedule that works for the practitioner. We give some structure for those who want it to experience a semester in about 7 months. It's a similar intensity to a typical clinical master's degree. So very rich, but certainly very doable while one is still employed full time, as long as it's made a priority. But students are given access to content all at once up front. So if it's a good time to aggressively go after it and complete the curriculum in 6 or 7 months, you can do that, or you can go at a slower pace and take 11 or 12 months to go through it. We really try to honor that everyone has a busy ongoing practice and needs flexibility and support in order to experience the material in the way that works best for them uniquely.
Right. I love that
Um,
too. And you need about 8 to 10 hours a week if you're going to finish in 7 months, but average of maybe 4 or 5 hours a week if you're going to finish over 12 months. So you can
mhm.
self-pace. I love that you can do that. And it's so beneficial to so many different people who are working full time. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
yeah.
Um, so, um, so one of the things I want to do, Jody, and we didn't talk about this earlier, but I would love to give your participants here on this page access to some free training content. I just want to say, you know this, but I'm really passionate about this. I think the best way to help people to choose the educational program that most resonates for them and their unique learning style is to experiment with it, get some real content that will give you immediate clinical value, but then you can also self-select as to whether or not it resonates with you and your learning style and whether you want more or not. I love giving away, just as public service, usable clinical content. And so we have a few different options to be able to give that. What do you think would be best for this particular audience? Because whether people resonate with us or join us or not, I want to support the mission of all of these practitioners to learn more. And so I want to give some bonus material,
So,
not sales content. This is real
right.
clinical course content.
So what I'll do is I'll put in the comments below when this video is done a link maybe to that Conquering Constipation course, because I think it's just a great way to
Sure.
teach people. It's a mini course and it shows you Tracy's teaching style, how it's, in the formats that it's in. Every lecture is in a PowerPoint with a video. It's a video PowerPoint. Then you get access to the slides. You can even use the slides in your own presentations or show them to your patients so you can use them. You get the written transcript, which I love because you can follow along and highlight if you prefer to do it that way. It's
Mm-hmm.
designed for different modes of learning, so it's great. And then you also get the
Mm-hmm.
audio where they can listen to it in their car, or I listen to it sometimes when I'm on a walk. I have Tracy's voice going through my head all the time, but I think I dream it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
No, that's great. Let's do that then. Let's do the Conquering Constipation course. I'm delighted to give that. I also think maybe from a conventional medical world, it may be a particularly interesting or provocative topic, as we may think of constipation, minus an impaction, right, as being more just an annoyance. But through the functional medicine lens, when we start to think about constipation as being evidence of disease, right? Clear evidence of imbalance in the body, and starting to look at the most common couple of dozen contributors, it helps us to understand how much more minor or commonplace symptoms in our patient base can be extremely important data points to help us to peel the onion to understand what's at play in a unique person's body. So it can be a pretty shocking initially shift in how to look at how a particular patient presents. I hear that all the time from the medical practitioners at SAFM. So I appreciate that recommendation. Let's do it. I'm delighted to do that. It's just a way of providing support and service for your audience here. And again, I thank you so much for setting this up so that people can benefit from shared learning with each other.
thank you so much for coming on. I just owe my entire practice, my success, my happiness, and my career, everything to you and your school. I
Yes.
didn't know that this stuff was possible. And I think so many people don't realize what is possible out there. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I know more than most people on this planet how to get people healthy. And I just know when people come to me that I can help them. And it's just such a rewarding career. It's the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. It's been amazing for my own health, just learning so much about what was going on with me personally in my own health journey. I mean, some of the drivers of what was driving my autoimmune disease, and oh my gosh, it's just been such a blessing. So I really appreciate that. But for those of you interested that are watching around this week, the registration is opening tomorrow, correct? For the
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me
April
talk about that for a
semester.
second. I just
Yeah.
want to close with that, right? if people are interested, right, it's an ideal time to be having this session because our next semester starts in mid-April. So it's a chance for people, like I said, to explore the content. Either it resonates or it doesn't, but it's free clinical content. I know you'll get some pearls you can use right away. But if you explore it, check it out. If it resonates with you, I'd be delighted to welcome some of your audience as students in our semester program that starts in mid-April. Registration deadline is, I think, maybe April 4th. So plenty of time,
yeah.
like 6 weeks away, plenty of time to explore it and check it out and see if it's a good fit for your goals and in advancing your clinical knowledge and your practice effectiveness.
Yeah, and I know that if you sign up in February, you're saying that they get a free bonus deep dive clinical course. So you could take that reversing diabetes course right now, or take that thyroid and adrenal course right now, like literally start tomorrow and learn. And you guys are going to absolutely love it. It's just so amazing. Even if you do it just for your own health, but you know, you're going to just be such a blessing to your patients by going through this program. Yeah. So
the adrenal thyroid myths and truths is such a foundational course, right? Because of their impact on cellular metabolism, which affects so much physiology. But yes, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a bonus that we offer to participants who register. It's actually even beyond February. I think it goes into the first part of March as well, but a free additional deep dive clinical course beyond the curriculum. So that allows people to get started right away in an actual semester course, so that you're not waiting until April to get in the pool and start swimming.
And I know they also get early access to the database, which I know when I started, that was just such a great thing. You can look up anything. You have a patient that comes in with diverticulitis and you're like, okay, what else can I do besides write a prescription? You can look it up and see what other students have asked and see what Tracy has answered and what's helped her. And it's almost like magic. It's great. I use that database every day. It's really
definitely not magic, but I still appreciate your enthusiasm, right? And I actually, you're a walking example, Jody, for why I'm passionate about doing this. Because here's the thing, I want every medical practitioner to have the same level of enthusiasm and exhilaration and excitement and contentment that you have doing this work, right? You love what you do. You can't wait to go in. You're very handsomely rewarded financially by people who want to pay you because they're getting such amazing results. For me, this is what medicine should be about, where people are getting incredible results. They're partnering with you. They're changing their lives so they can really sustain their results. But I want all medical practitioners to have this level of fulfillment and reward and vitality in doing this work, right? It is a divine calling. It's a very blessed profession. And I want to bring that joy of practicing medicine back to being the norm, right? We've lost that. I have so many friends, not just students in the school, but just friends and colleagues who are physicians and nurse practitioners and nurses in particular, who are just worn out. They're disillusioned, they're burnt out, they're frustrated. They feel marginalized by managed care. I want to take a stand against that for sure, but I also know that can't be the norm if we're going to solve healthcare, right? If we're going to transform medicine moving forward into something that's not only affordable, but something that is widely effective. So I just want to thank you for being a role model. Thank you for your leadership.
Thanks. There's plenty of graduates like me too.
Of what's possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Tracy. I so appreciate you coming
on
board. And you guys type your questions below, and I will get to them, or Tracy can maybe pop in and get to them as well. But thanks again, and have a great one, Trace.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jody. Have a great day. Thank you all for joining in. I appreciate it. I'm grateful.
Take care. Bye-bye.